Let's get started. So this webinar is going to show your law firm how to fix your worst CRM data problems. My name's Simon McNidder from Promptr. I've spent nearly 30 years in law firm and accounting CRM, whether that's in-house as a consultant and now as a software supplier and fully serviced operations. So how did I get started? Well, I started at PricewaterhouseCoopers when Pricewaterhouse merged with Coopers and Lybrand. I went into the head of marketing's office in the Midlands in the UK and said to him, all our data, our databases, our events and our mailings, it's all duplicated. And he pointed at me and said, that's your job. And I just thought, what a stupid thing to say. But he obviously knew me far better than I knew myself, loved it, just fell into it and have done it ever since. So for about 30 years. So what we're going to cover today is your data, how to use it to get adoption, and how to use it to get around poor adoption, because we all know lawyers, they don't always use the database. So let's get going. So Leaning Tower of Pisa. These wonderful flash buildings are only as good as their foundations. And your CRM databases or your cross-selling activities are only as good as the data underneath your database. Nobody gives it a second thought until they need to use it, or until, in the case of Leaning Tower of Pisa, slightly bends or falls over in some cases. Okay. So what you're going to hear from your lawyers, because that's who you want to use your CRM system, you're going to hear things like, I'm not using our CRM system because my contacts aren't in it. There are duplicates everywhere, the data's poor. Updating it isn't a 400 per hour job. I don't know how to use it. It's too complex. I know everything about my client. I don't need to know anything else. Why would I share? And I'm not sharing my relationships. Those are the typical things I've heard over the years on CRM systems. Okay. Now, our recommendations to get around all of that. So the first one is the data's awful. Our biggest tip, which you can start straight away, is if you've had your system for 10 or 15 or 20 years, there will be a lot of information in it. Okay. So our recommendation is delete a huge amount. Now, I've done this at everywhere I was in-house. So I did it at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I deleted half the database. I left a year after that. Not a single person had picked me up on it. I did exactly the same at Pinsent Masons, and I've been there for 15 years. Took them through 5 mergers, through a whole variety of data issues. And I think I deleted, I think it was a third of that database. Not a single squeak from the lawyers. Yep. No event mailings dropped off. In fact, they actually improved. And I'll go over that in a minute. And I've done the same at Gowings, whereas I'm a sort of contractor there. We deleted, I think, 2/3 of the database, and we've had nothing but good feedback. All the feedback that people used to say about, oh, the data's rubbish, there are duplicates everywhere, all that sort of thing, it gets cleared off when you delete your contacts. Now, there are 2 ways of doing it. You can either find contacts to delete or find contacts to keep and delete the others. So if you go for the first one and try and find contacts to delete, you'll spend a whole afternoon and you might come up with 500 people. And if you've got a database of 100,000 or a couple of 100,000, that's going to take you a long, long time. So if you go the other approach, like all these trendy house clearing TV programs, they take everything out of the house and then say, well, what do you want back? And they bring that bit in. That's what I'm going to recommend for you. So all you do is you say, we'll set up some rules to say, these contacts are the ones we want. And we'll delete the rest. So for example, has someone been interacting with them? So have they clicked on mail shots? Have they booked onto events? Those sorts of things. That's one rule. So you have a big pot of those. If you have another rule that says, and if they're known by a lawyer, because if you're using a CRM system, ideally that might have happened. What you'll probably find is that if you had your system for 20 years and you bought data 20 years ago and one of the lawyers or the marketing person or anyone else like that was allocated to that person, that's going to save all of them. So a trick for you, only save contacts that are known by 2 or more people. Okay. Then you've got, has anyone been logging coffee with these people or meetings or anything like that? Any kind of BD that the lawyers really should be doing. Well, we've got fully aware that they don't. Okay. So you save those. You can save alumni because they they refer to you and they remember you and they know you anyway, don't they? And you can refer, and you can keep any others that your referral networks with, or key clients, or key people that you think, we just want these people. So not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater, just saying have your own rules about what you want to save. And then the remaining, archive it. Guaranteed, hardly anyone will come back on you. And if they do, just bring those 1 or 2 people back. I think in about, when did I do it at Pinson's? It was probably about 10 years after deleting the first ones. I had about 2 instances, and we said, well, we'll just add them back in again. And there are much better ways of adding contacts, and I'll cover that in a minute too. So step 1, you can delete all your contacts. You can just do that straight away. Okay. 2, and this is something that you can do centrally as a marketing or a function as well, is you can do an annual spring clean, and you can centralize the looking after the data. So 2 points, annual spring clean. So since GDPR became a bit popular, it's very easy to say, oh, we're going to send everyone an email to say your details are in our system and do you consent to marketing or not? Let's go beyond that, because the arguments about consent or implied consent or explicit is all is far too much for this webinar. But if you sent an email to every single one of your contacts in your system to say, look, your details are in our system. Do you want to get stuff from us? And what are your interests and what are your issues? And then, lo and behold, if you've got a newsletter that you send to everybody and someone said, I'm interested in various employment things, and someone else says, I'm various in pensions, they get that in their newsletter. If you were doing individual emails, and we did this the first time at Pinson's, I'm going back now 20, 25 years ago, huge response rate increase. Funny enough, if you ask people what they want and then give it to them, you get better response rates. So we did this at Pinson's, and it was a property seminar, and it was the first mailing we did, or the first emailing we did after the first ever spring clean of the database. So we split the system into 3 sections. One, a third of the database had responded, a third of them we binned for some reason, and a third didn't do anything. So what we ended up doing was send the mailing for the property seminar. Can't remember what it was now. And I remember the lawyer saying, but this doesn't go into our original list. I want the original list. And we said, look, we've got plenty of time. Let's send it to these contacts that have said they're interested in this particular topic. We got such a fantastic take up. We never used the old list again. What actually happened is it was an absolute admin nightmare because we had so many responses. We had to fill the room twice. Okay. Centralize your data management. This comes on with that, because this is someone's got to take responsibility. The lawyers aren't going to update the details. The PA isn't either. Okay, so at the end of your appraisal for the PAs or the secretaries or assistants, whatever you like to call them in your firm, and you're going to go, right, well, how did your database updating go? And he or she is going to say, well, I know I was meant to do that, but I was asked to do client stuff and support the lawyer doing this, that, and the other, and write this and all that sort of stuff. So, and that was all far more important, so I didn't do it. And that's where you're going to be. Now, if you imagine that 10% of people move jobs, whether it's a different firm or move jobs within their organization already, that's 10% of your database out of date before you've even done anything. Okay, so you're going to have to work out, how do we solve this? And there isn't many ways around asking, yay, please update it. You need to centralize it. Now, whether that's you centralize it with some software, which I'm going to go over in a minute, or by people monitoring the software, because you can't get away from it. So whether you have someone in your marketing team, whether you outsource it to a sort of a temp or a data steward, if you've got interaction, you'll know that word, or whether you use a fully managed CRM system, let's just say that the data updating comes with it. Okay, you've still got to update it, and you probably need to centralize it to make sure it gets done. Okay, so fairly new tool within about last 5 years, maybe a bit longer. Outlook signature scraping, absolute game changer. Don't use a legal CRM system if you've got lawyers or accountants without one. Okay, so what these do is, because they link to your Outlook, if your lawyers email a contact and the contact emails back, they get added into the database. Now, you can have some simple ones that just say, there's the name and email address and the company name of the person, or you can go the full hog and have the system look at all of the signature at the bottom of the incoming email. And you've got the phone number, the address, the job title, all the other things as well. Okay, that depends on your firm's ability to say, yeah, we're happy that software looks at our emails, even though it is only the signature, or other ones that go, they're just taken from the header record of the Outlook. Okay. Now that's not perfect, but you have someone to just tidy that up onwards. Okay. So that's Outlook signature scraping. And what they do, the really nice ones, is if the record, let's say job title, in the incoming email now says finance director, and your database has got financial controller or assistant finance director, deputy, it flags it and updates it. You have to have a person to check it because sometimes it doesn't always go in the right field, and it just happens. Okay. Auto add lawyers' contacts. These pieces of software as well. You'll get your lawyers saying, "I'm not using my CRM system because my contacts, the one I've only just met, isn't in it. So why would I use it? It's just far too much effort." They get around that. If your lawyer emails a contact or a contact emails somebody, that record gets added into the system and that lawyer is listed as knowing them. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Game changer. Don't use a CRM system without it. It is just not going to be any use, because lawyers don't get up in the morning and say, I want to use the database today, do they? They just don't. So you have to centralize, or back end, or tech. Tech can solve a lot of things. CRM systems have been around in law firms for about 30 odd years. If lawyers were going to use one, they'd have done it by now. Yeah. So you've just got to get around them. Okay. Keeping on top of your data. So the deletion rules can all work along timing. So you say, if you haven't had X, Y, Z in the last, so if that contact hasn't been added in the last 3 years, if there haven't been any activities or BD notes, or whatever you like to call them, like I've had a coffee or they've booked onto an event in the last 3 years, they were on the initial deletion of your records. Do that every single month. Just save all of your deletion records now that you do step one, and just run them once a month. And you go, right, well, I'm going to put all these contacts that are now saved into it, and what's left. And you'll find that all the old stuff that's been there for 10 years or 20 years slowly gets deleted, and your lawyers stop moaning about the data. So there's one less problem. Okay. Schedule it. Take half a day, a month, someone's job to go, right, I'm going through duplicates, I'm going through the archiving, I'm going through the data amends and corrections. Unless you schedule it in, and it becomes a habit on the first Tuesday of the month or the first Tuesday of the week, depending on how big your database is, we're going through all of those things. My time's blocked off in my diary, and that will sort out all of the bad data and the missing bits in your system. So that's getting rid of the data and tidying it up. No system is any good if it's not bringing in information, knowledge, data, details, whatever you like to call it, that helps your lawyers understand what's going on with their contacts, find out who knows who, and enable them to collaborate and connect with their colleagues about contacts that you're dealing with. Okay. So you may want to look for systems or bolt them on to your database if that's what you want. Because it doesn't matter what system you have. A decent alert that's looking at other things can plug into your system or just alert somebody of what's going on. So let's give you a couple of examples of what sort of thing is going to really boost the information in your system. Because data isn't just name and address fields and job titles and emails and phone numbers. It's what's going to help your firm sell more of your services. Okay. So one, call it whatever you want, but let's just call it a collaboration alert. For example, a weekly alert to each lawyer on all the activity that happens with their contacts. And don't tell me you've got a database where the lawyer has to click, I know this person. Yeah, then whatever that is, that's archaic. You have one that just automatically is scanning the emails and other things like that, and just adds those lawyers as no-nos contacts. So that if I'm a lawyer and you've met one of my contacts or even emailed them or had a meeting in Outlook with them, I get notified about it. I don't need to see the content of the email. There's no risk or say, it's just, you've met my contact. Why don't I? I've just seen it in my weekly alert. I'm going to have a chat with you. Let's see what we're doing. We seem to be both dealing with the same person or the same organization. Okay. And a typical alert a good one, will pull together any BD that the lawyers have added. Okay. So that's step one. If you've got that, wow. But the majority of lawyers aren't going to do that. So there's a workaround. But if you also got your mailings and your events, so they'll tell you if any of your contacts have booked onto events and webinars, or if they've clicked on mail shot links to read more information, that sort of thing. But the better ones are now starting to be able to say, look, we're tracking Outlook for you. We're not looking at the content of the email. Don't worry about that. But we're saying, look, we know that Joe Bloggs is emailing John Smith. Let's just tell everybody that this is going on to allow the lawyers to collaborate. Because what you'll find is, if you've got some very good lawyers in your firm that are adding their BD notes, okay, all brilliant. But the lawyer that isn't doing it is getting all that benefit. They go, I don't have to do this. Look what I'm earning from all my colleagues doing all the work. And the poor sod who's adding all the notes isn't getting anything back because everybody else isn't doing anything. So you have to work around that. So just leapfrog the ones that aren't collaborating and they're not playing the collaboration game. And a weekly alert that pulls together everything that it can possibly do with a contact is the way to go. And it has to be tracking your Outlook meetings and emails, just the traffic. So if I just give you, we've made up this screenshot, but at the top one, ABC company, Jane Smith, of course it's made up. The top one, they've had 8, who's that? Jane Smith, one of my contacts. They've had 18 emails with a variety of other colleagues, lawyer A, K, P, and Z, for example. And that's some meetings with A and P, because it's looking at Outlook meetings, calendars, and emails in and out. All it's doing is it's looking at your Outlook exchange, doesn't matter what system, and having a look at it. Now, you can bolt that onto absolutely any tool that you want. So if you've got a big CRM system, you can bolt that onto that sort of thing. If you've got Promptr, it's already within it. You've got an Excel list, who cares? It's just going to start building up anything and providing your lawyers with an overview, a bit like a very mini, zero-effort CRM system. Okay. Now, data, if you think about why we collaborate so that we can sell more of our services to our existing clients, because that's far easier than trying to find new clients. So if you've got tools that are looking at Outlook and linked to Outlook, so rather than looking for a whole variety of things, you could say, well, let's take a tax team, for example. Well, in a screen, I've got employment law. I'll do that. So your employment team are going, do you know what? We need more introductions from our other teams, our colleagues in our different offices, the floor down below from another region. Yep, absolutely. It's just data. It's just data moving around in Outlook, in Excel, or anything like that at all. Why not set up alert, and you can bolt this onto any system that looks at employment-related keywords. So they choose them. So they might go dismissals or CHUPI or anything like that, that are sent into your firm, but not to your employment team. All of their emails will say that. And if someone from pensions or tax has an email that pops up with CHUPI or dismissals or whatever else keyword you chose, choose redundancies, it fires an email to your marketing person who can qualify the lead and then connects the employment team with the person that received the email. And the person that receives it can carry on doing their day job and not really remember, that client might need our employment advice. It was just a throwaway comment in an email. Yeah, that's where data is going to get you. Okay. Now, there are a lot of systems that go, or firms that go, we're not having tracking our emails and things like that. A lot of the systems are already doing that. It's just a bit scary. So if you get Amazon Prime or anything like that, the telly, you start watching something and it starts recommending other things. It's just looking at your habits and passing them on. Okay, so that is I'm just going to go back a slide. Here we go. They're the recommendations. So delete all your data, not all of it, as much as you can. Just have a good stab at getting rid of a lot of stuff. Spring clean. Ask your contacts their interests, and then give them information that's based on it. Outlook scraping or automatically adding contacts. You might want to call it AI, it's automation, whatever you want to call it. That is the way to go. Don't find or don't use a system without that capability. Archive and tidy up your records every single month. Remove the duplicate or combine duplications. It's just one of the bugbears of a system. And really, go beyond CRM systems and have alerts that pop into the lawyer's inbox. They don't have to go and hunt for information that might or might not be there. The day before a meeting, an alert pops in that says, You're meeting Joe blogs. Here's an overview of what we found in the system that's related to them, for example. Okay, you've got an awful lot of information in your firm already. Use it. And that's where you have alerts, prompts, nudges, whatever you like to call them, that pull it all together. Okay, and it's a weekly alert for all your lawyers. That's bare minimum. You can bolt many things onto any system. One up from that is really how many newsletters or internal emails or team sheets? Let's just say, well, I'll pick on the employment team again, that they ping round to the corporate team, the tax, the pensions team, or anything like that at all. And if every team does that, if a lawyer receives an email about a topic, let's just say it's a pensions law, and it's someone's mentioned dismissals or redundancies or TUPE or whatever, moving location or merging, anything like that. They don't have to remember, the employment team might want that, or the corporate team might want that, or the tax team, or the pensions, or wherever I said. Have a system that's just looking at your data. Yeah, you don't even have to go out to buy expensive databases that look at Dun & Bradstreet or the Times or Financial Times feeds or anything like that at all. You've got an awful lot of information in your firm already that you can capitalize on. Last slide is a bit about me and Promptr. I'm going to leave you with the recommendations slide. If there are any questions, I'll be sending these slides around. Just get in touch and have a chat. Contact me on LinkedIn, drop me an email, anything like that at all. I'm more than happy to talk about this sort of thing until the cows come home.